video for probably about a week. People have been asking me, am I okay? My health hasn't been the best, to be honest. Well, this week, this is the first day I'm not feeling too bad. I'm actually okay today. It's a continual breathing problem. I've never fully gotten over that issue. When I pulled the box out of the mill, the mold hit me in the face, and it's been a long process of trying to get that stuff out of me, and it was really bad on Thursday and Friday. Very, very bad on Thursday. And I was like, if I didn't have inhalers and I didn't have a bottle of oxygen, I'd probably, I'd probably have to go to hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital for obvious reasons. They'll just say that I've got the Rona, and which I don't. Apart from the breathing, everything else is fine. And if they don't do that, they make me take antibiotics, and I don't want to take antibiotics because that will destroy all the healthy gut bacteria that I've spent my life building up, and that's more invaluable to me. So I'm riding it through, and it's almost over. It should be gone the next few days. I've been maxing out on vitamin C and magnesium, and being very careful to expose myself to any kind of chemicals or that might make me gasp for air. And it's okay now. You can hear now. I'm not wheezing or anything like that, but it was really bad on Wednesday and Thursday. But I'm all right now. I'm gonna be okay. Next on, and I just have this fear of going into a hospital, and they instantly put me on air balloon, and and I'm on a one-way trip to the next. I know that's probably irrational to take that chance. That would be my extremely last option. I'm managing, I survived, I'm okay. But it was just a moment of stupidity, because I knew it was on top of, in the attic, I knew that mold was there, and on top of the wooden, it took a wooden crate thing, and I just was in a hurry to do something. I just pulled it, it all came into my, I've inhaled it all. But, what can you do? But apart from that, thanks, it was lovely that you all really got me and asked me if I was okay. I am okay. I was in a bad mood mostly, more than anything else. So, and there wasn't a lot to talk about, really. And there's also Renfielding will be off. This is a psychic weather report as well. Renfielding has really started going off the scale. And you're probably not all feeling too good right now because the full moon tomorrow night, and the moon is very low in the sky. It's a low hanging moon. So therefore it casts a very kind of it casts long shadows. It's very beautiful, of course. It casts long shadows across the earth at night. But this is it's almost like the long shadows at night are sort of like triggering the long journey ahead. And I'm kind of angry at how long this nonsense has been going on, but at the same time too, it's I know political action is not going to do anything. That's it. The world. Like, I saw a meme today, and it's true. Voting is writing letters to Santa for adults. It really is. That's what it is. And the only way we can do this out is that if something else comes along, and takes it off. But it is worrying how many. I heard some real bad stories this week, and there's lots of people dying. I know 3 people now have died of COVID, and only one of them had a pre-existing condition, and they're all over 50. But only one had a pre-existing condition. They had very bad diabetes, and that was it. And it's just worrying, like the whole thing, stay alive, ring. Now, I'm not, again, if you want to take the needle, that's your own business. We will not fall out. We will not stop being friends. I won't call you a sheep, or I won't call you a coward. That's, it's be forced on your children. I will, though. But it's, consulting adults, what you do is your own business, okay? But it's amazing to me. Like, they're all, you look at all the normie websites and everything, and the comments, and they all know needlecraft is not working, and they're all saying, "No way, am I getting a fucking booter?" You know. But you know that cunt who's saying that will be the first one out on with his sleeve on his arm rolled up. You know, they just complain, then they still do it. They say, "No, I'm not going to do it," and then they do it. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. And there's no independent thought of anything. And I'm seeing a lack of independent thought on the resistance to needlecraft side too as well. I mean, there seems to be, okay, it's rough, the ones who are you know, against needlecraft and digital ideas like me. They tend to be on the right, and some of them tend to be on the very far right, unfortunately. Now, I don't care about left, I don't care about right, the pox on all their houses, but there seems to be this growing consensus that in order to be against digital idea, you must be a Christian, preferably an Irish Catholic, you must be a nationalist, and you must be against all foreigners coming into the country and living here. And that's not going to win any over. You know, the way I see it is that people who are immigrants are just as much people we need on our side to fight this thing as anyone else. Okay, so you don't start wars with them. You don't start picking on them. And there's a lot of that going on. A lot of rosary bead mauling is going on, and that's not going to help either. And that's not going to help. You see, the reason why we're in the condition we are is because most Irish people have found Catholicism again, and the Catholicism is the Covidanity, and it's given them back what they lost and their parents had, the rituals and the guilt and the suffering and the wounds of Jesus. And when they, you know, you can see when people get sick and die of this thing, it's literally treated like, you know, not just in Catholic countries or in Ireland, it's even everywhere. It's like, you know, she's the martyrs, you know, the blood of the martyrs, Saint Sebastian. You know, that's what it's like. You know, they get needlecraft and then they die, and their parents or their family in the paper, or even them when they're on their deathbed, are saying things. I always fully encourage people to continue to go out there and get needlecraft too. Just like Sebastian and his arrows. You see, it's that archetype is now, you know, that famous painting, or you see a statue of it all over. But you see it's particularly in Southern Europe, of Saint Sebastian, who wouldn't renounce Christianity, and the legend is that the pagans used him for arrow practice. In reality, it's probably the other way around. But anyway, Saint Sebastian is sitting there with all his arrows in him. You know, well, the version we have that today is like, you know, these branch Covidians with all the fucking, you know, their 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th booster in them. You know, they're all like Saint Sebastian with syringes in them instead of arrows. And so it's like, you know, that's why I'm not interested in anything politics, really. I'm not here for politics. I'm here, this is a spiritual, philosophical, and psychological, you know, epic journey this Rona thing has been for me. And it continues to be that. And I really wish, like, I don't say that we'll defeat the vaccine passport idea by being pagans. I don't do that. But yet the other side are increasingly saying things like we have to turn to Christianity in order to get rid of the mark of the beast. You know, this bullshit, you know. And that's only going to put people off and turn people away. That's not going to bring anyone to us. And there's this kind of thing going on, you know. You know, just when you think someone in Europe has a bit of sense, the Hungarian Prime Minister, he turns around and starts talking about Europe is built on Judeo-Christian ethics. No, Europe was built by classical pagans. The Europa, the Europe that you strive for, was developed in the symposiums of Athens and the Forum of Rome, and in the Temple of Jupiter and the Temple of Saturn and the Temple of Athena and places like that, in the shadow of those pagan monuments. That's the Europe you live in. It wasn't developed by later Constantine's armies, who he himself died a pagan. I mean, his Constantine Arch in Rome shows him sacrificing a lamb to Jupiter and Apollo. And so, you know, I was like, oh, there we go, he's an idiot too. And you know, they have to bring this religion, Christianity, Judeo-Christian thing into it. No, Europe is a product of paganism. Sorry, this is why when you're in school and they taught you about the great minds, the great thinkers of the inventors of science, philosophy, the arts, the sciences and everything else, mathematics. They talked about Archimedes and Plato and Socrates and all the rest of them. And never once did they ever say they're pagans. It's almost like we have to admit, yeah, our great European civilization was built upon these characters, and Marcus Aurelius and all these other people, in great thinkers, and yet all of them were pagans. Hypatia, all of them are pagans, and yet you were never told that in school. You were just they just existed. Do you ever remember in school the concept of Plato's being a pagan? Did that ever go into your head? No, it was ever mentioned in school. No. And then we're all told then, well, we're Judeo-Christian. What? Plato wasn't Jewish. Socrates wasn't Jewish. Archimedes wasn't Jewish. Hypatia wasn't Jewish. Aristotle wasn't Jewish. They were all pagans. Marcus Aurelius wasn't Jewish. They were all pagans. And I'm not saying we have to go back to that in order to restore Europe or get our civil rights, things like freedom and civil rights back. But I can tell you for a fact, folks, the very first globalization was Christianity. Christianity is globalization, okay? It was the first one, it set the template, and even things like Marxism, communism directly come out of Christianity. Totally. So you cannot fight globalization with its mother. Christianity is the mother of globalization. That's just the end of it. That became the template through the Vatican and the Holy See, and then later on through things like the Anglican Church and so on, as the methodology and the means to which to bring all countries under and all societies under a certain fold. From the knuckle scraping troglodytes of the stylites, who couldn't even build ladders to get up, the proper who built ladders for the only purpose of sitting on top of a column that was probably built by a pagan, until their bowels collapsed and exploded to manifest destiny. That's it. That's not the West. That's why the founding fathers of the United States, and the United States of America, is still the greatest concept ever for a country. There has never been any other concept for a country better than the concept of the United States of America. It has not been bettered. And the founding fathers of the United States had two things which they didn't like: Christianity and democracy. And in the end, they had to bottle it, or not bottle it, but they had to accommodate both, just because the sheer numbers of it. But two things that from the founding fathers of the United States did not like were Christianity and democracy. And that's why they went for a republic, and that's why they were all Freemasons. Now, you can sit there so you can sit there saying, like, oh, well, Freemasons are evil. Like, there's this whole thing lately that some people have leaving comments on my video. It's really funny that I'm a Freemason. I'm a member of nothing. I'm very interested in Freemason, just like I'm very interested in all kinds of things. Buddhism, Christianity, Satanism. I'm interested in all of them. That doesn't mean I'm part of them. Just you look at them doesn't mean you're one of them. But it's just so okay. So I'm a Freemason. So what does that mean? All my videos must be discounted as lies. Okay, that's how you think. That's how you think. You grab your rosary beads and go mauling them. You can go follow. Go to the next march in Dublin, mauling your rosary beads, hoping it will change someone like Thoreau in Canada. It's what we need is a unified, non-coordinated front on this. We need chaos. We need chaos magic, big time. We need the same kind of in order to defeat the digital vax ID. We need the same kind of chaos magic that was unleashed by Fortran to stop Hillary Clinton from being elected in 2016. We need Pepe Keck-ism back again. It's just not there. It's not happening. And that's the only thing. You saw the effectiveness of chaos magic in getting Hillary Clinton, an absolute fruitcake, psychopath, mass murderer. Hillary Clinton out of the White House in 2016, who was desperate to start a war with everybody, and the chaos magic worked totally. We need that again. I don't see it from anywhere. It's unfortunate it's not happening, but that's what we really need. We need something like that, and as big and as complex and as fun as the 4chan and the Keck thing was, which was tremendously funny at the time it was happening. Now, as well as mind-blowingly there. And so, like, so this whole thing, so basically in Ireland now, the only faction that's standing up to needlecraft and ID is rosary bead maulers. And people who have this kind of idea of nationalism being Catholic and Ireland being a Catholic nation. I don't care what your religion is, it's your own business. But there's lots of people we could probably win on our side to bring us over to our side. But they're not going to come if they see a bunch of old fogies singing Ave Maria and waving tricolours. It's not going to happen. You know, and there's still a lot of hurt and damage out there because of all the clerical sex abuses and things like that. And there's still many Catholics in this country who do not want to even accept that that happened. Or they try to play it down. Or they say it wasn't as bad as it made out to be. But it's still bad. It still happened everywhere. And yes, it was used as a mechanism to dismantle the traditional power structure in Ireland. Big time, absolutely was. By globalist Marxist agendas. So then those of us who were in the middle involved in none of this stuff were basically watching two factions which we didn't like going to war against each other in order to take control of the country. And they've done it in all the other countries, right? In one way or another. So it gets frustrating for me at times. And that's why, like, I wasn't feeling well this week and I didn't want to make any videos. Because of that. Now again, I'm not. If this what your religion is your own business, but religion is not going to solve this problem. And therefore, and especially this concept of Christianity standing up against communism. That's like Marxism standing up against Engels. Marx standing up against Engels. You know, we need to get off that completely. Okay. The answer is education. This is the problem. On the pro-needlecraft side, like the government are saying things like here in Ireland, they're now claiming that 90% of young people are now needlecrafted. Okay, then why do we still have the ID? Why do we still have it? Why? Where do we still have it? So that, you know, something that say, well, it's others don't, and then they kind of bring out this whole thing because it's great. The Micheál Martin, the Taoiseach professor, even said the other day, it's great to see Irish people embrace a trust in science. No, that's not why they're getting needlecraft, sunshine. The reason why they're getting the needlecraft is exactly the same reason that we had a 90% take up in church attendances in the 1960s and 50s. It's because they didn't want the neighbours talking about them. That's what that was. And they also wanted to hedge their bets to get into heaven. And that's the same thing. That's the same impetus that drove 90% of the Irish into mauling rosary beads in the pews of Catholic churches in the 1950s and 60s, and right through to the 70s, is the same impetus that has 90% of them all needlecrafted. They don't want the neighbours talking about them. They don't want to. It's nothing to do with science. In fact, the only ones who are talking science, understand science, are the ones who are questioning it. And that was shown by that graph that showed who was the highest rate of people who had doubts about vaccine and had needlecraft hesitancy? PhDs. Look it up. They were at the very top. And on the other end of the scale, working class people with no college. So that means on one end of the scale, common sense, street smarts. On the other, PhDs who know what real science is. In the middle, all the master's degrees and everyone else, bachelor's degrees, they're all running up because all they know is what the professor told them, and their educational acumen is directly related to doing exactly as the professor told them to do and questioning nothing. See, this is the whole thing. There's a lack of independent thinking. People find it amazing that I'm not bothered by abortion. I'm supposed to be a right-winger. I'm not bothered by abortion. People are amazed that I have so many gay, black, lesbian, Jewish friends. I don't care about any stuff like that. I'm into individuals. I don't play that game. People are amazed that I'm not particularly terrified of immigration. Doesn't bother me if people want to come and they've got qualified and they're willing to contribute. I have no problem with that. Of course, that's not the same thing as population replacement, which has gone in certain parts of Europe. It hasn't happened here yet. But that would be something I think is totally immoral and wrong. But at the same time, too, that's the globalist. Things were fine until globalization took over about, 20 years ago. You had normal immigration, you had normal everything, you know. I've no problem with gay rights, anything like that. That's I'm an anarchist. I believe without rulers, and in order to be an anarchist without rulers, the first ruler you have to kill is the dogma that rules inside you. When I was growing up, a book that was a huge influence on me was Anton LaVey's The Satanic Bible. Now, if you haven't read The Satanic Bible, it's actually a book I would encourage everyone to read, even Christians. All the Satanic Bible preaches ultimately is a philosophy of self-determination and self-responsibility. It's basically the ultimate expression of Crowley's "do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." And that's what it means. Do it thou wilt, but you still have to. But if you do something that harms someone else, it's black magic. But Anton LaVey fleshed this out very well. Like lots of things, like, yeah, I'm all about the love, but I'm all about the conditional love. I don't do unconditional love. That's a Christian idea. Love your enemy. That's where many of our problems are coming from. I used to love watching Zena LaVey on TV back in the day. His daughter talking about, yeah, we believe in revenge if it's necessary. Absolutely, we believe in revenge. And if you read the Satanic Bible, you read their 10 commandments, it's all about things like don't hurt anybody, don't take from anybody, don't damage anybody, and just be yourself, do your own thing once and not hurting anyone, and do not hurt children or do not hurt children or animals for sadistic means or anything, or sexual means or anything like that. And it's perfectly, I mean, I was reading this in school when I was doing my intersed. We had a book day, and I brought in the Satanic Bible, and they were all laughing their heads off. And the teacher he was a nice fellow, he was trying to humour me. And when I explained what the book was about, it's basically a manifesto for human decency. And it's very interesting, and I learned a lot of things from that. And I found LaVey a very good writer. And the teacher ended up getting a copy of the book himself because he says he was impressed with it. And so I went to a comprehensive. I didn't go to Catholic school, so I was lucky that way, I guess. But so that had a great effect on me growing up. That book, when I found it in the Bamba in Fisborough Shopping Centre. But Bamba was a bookshop that had thousands of books, thousands and thousands of occult books and paperbacks and all kinds of stuff like that, and Dennis Wheaton and all. But I found it in there, and it was definitely like a huge influence on me. And I think that's where I kind of like learned at an early age that dogma is really bad for you. But it's really bad when you're trying to solve a problem. Dogma doesn't solve problems. It may crush your enemies, but it will only lead to more problems. You understand? Like, dogma doesn't solve problems. Dogma crushes your enemies. And when you crush your enemies, you're only going to end up with more new enemies. You're going to have to deal with things like karma and stuff like that. And it's I look at Trudeau made a speech today that's almost sickening things I've ever seen. That guy Trudeau in Canada, and he basically said to Canadians, if you don't take the needlecraft, your life is over. Your life is over, and you should be treated like a second-class citizen. Now, this is disgraceful behaviour. Now, I actually believe he's mentally ill. I've watched Justin Trudeau enough to realise that he's probably mentally ill, and I suspect he suffers from the same neurological condition that many British aristocrats who are in things like BLM and climate change groups, or people, these like toffs in England who are all like, I'm terribly concerned about climate change. Oh, my grandpapa, he's got in his villa, or they're terribly concerned about Brexit because the family has 2 vineyards in Provence. There will be tax implications, but they won't say that publicly. The bloody working class, voted for Brexit. They made you don't make good pizza anymore. And the same thing, like it's all self-serving. Now, a lot of them are mentally ill. Like they're if you the only extreme lefties left in the UK are people who talk like this and live in stately homes, boy, and had life on a silver plate handed to them. And the reason why they're like that is they're mentally ill. And why they're mentally ill is that they've hereditary syphilis has been passed on from generation of aristocrat to generation of aristocrat. They picked up like rare types of syphilis. And Grandpapa Quentin in the Transvaal, he had a thing for the coolie boys, you know. And Grandpapa Quentin has brought on some kind of really strange hereditary syphilis or gonorrhea, whatever, that are some kind of STD that's gone through the generations eating their neurology. By the time you have, like, you know, some guy called Tarquin, who's the fifth Viscount of Hampshire, is you know, lives in a stately home and is talking about and is quoting Marx and Engels. This is what, like, that's why they're like that. I think Trudeau's the same thing. His mother was a well-known shagbag, and in fact, her nickname her nickname was the head of state, because she was famous for basically giving anyone a head, and that was her nickname, the head of state. And she shagged everything, and he bears an uncanny resemblance to Fidel Castro, an uncanny resemblance. And she probably was banging him as well, and it's probably his real father. But he's probably got these same hereditary syphilises into his brain that's made him bonkers and absolutely nuts, that guy. He's totally out of control. You know, Canada has fallen, Australia has fallen, Ireland fell when the President Bill O'Baggins here signed that appalling fax apartheid legislation that's still making me very sad and angry. The Republic here fell. And what I'm asking for, and what people like me are asking for, is just so simple. People who choose to not get the needlecraft don't impinge on their human rights. Don't restrict their right to travel or to attend certain things, and don't treat them like they're second-class citizens. That's a very simple request that I have. I don't care about anything else. I don't care. I mean, you want to run your pandemic policy any way you want. You go and do that. Okay, that's your health board and whatever you feel what to do. That's the only thing I care about. That's the only card on the table. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about. I mean, I can live with wearing masks if I have to, but out of some public health policy, I'm not bothered by any of that. What I'm really bothered by is that ID, and what I'm asking for is something incredibly simple. Let people like us have her freedom. Don't treat us like second-class citizens. And that's the only issue we should have. There should be no other issue on the table. And therefore, so that's why when you see people make it, that's why, like, I'm hearing, people, I meet people all the time will say things like, the biggest thing is I don't want to get the needlecraft, and I hate the idea. I'm horrified by the vaccine, and excuse me, and I say yeah, and then I say something like, then they go on about immigrants, and I said, oh, stop, 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 or the mark of the beast, or this kind of thing. Stop. It's very, very fucking simple. Okay. The Vax ID is totally an affront to Western concepts of freedom. Okay, Western philosophy of liberty. Okay. There hasn't been anything like this since the Nuremberg racial laws of 1934, which imposed second-class citizenship upon Jews and Gypsies and other groups in the Third Reich. There's been nothing like that till now. It's obscene and immoral, and it's a damning indictment of politicians and bureaucrats who cannot manage a healthcare issue without putting the jackboots on. It's a monument to their failures and their incompetence that they have to go to that extreme. And you have Trudeau literally telling Canadians, you're either Canadian or it's over. And that's exactly what he did. And if you want to get needlecraft, That's your, as a, the Western concept of freedom, go for it. If you don't, you see what these people don't understand, and Neil Oliver's made the same point. Freedom is more important than dying of COVID. I know that sounds amazing to you, but it's not really. It's not really. People have always died to secure the freedom of future generations. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Once you're not killing someone else, okay? So, if I died of COVID, not being needle crafted, and many other people I know who are not needle crafted as well died of it, would be okay with that. This is the thing you don't understand. You say, "Oh well, she refused the needle craft, and she died. Ha ha ha! Well, she got what she deserved." And you don't seem to understand. Maybe she didn't want. You understand? Some people don't want to live in a world where you have to carry around an electronic tag that shows that you've got the latest products by a pharmaceutical corporation. A lot of us don't want that. That's not a prerequisite to existence in Western society. And I really wish you lot on the other side, the more extreme ones, would understand that we're okay with dying once we still have our freedom. We're okay with it. So don't gloat about us dying. If we get it, we chose this rather than we live like slaves. That's it. This is it's as simple as that. I don't know why you find that so difficult. But there's no reason a human being should have to live as a second-class citizen because their pharmaceutical upgrades from a corporation are not up to date. I think that's fascist. Maybe I'm old-fashioned that way. Maybe there's something wrong with me for wanting freedom. Maybe I'm the problem. I don't know, but I don't like it. And that's the only card on the table. So I would appeal to everyone who feels this way that I do to stop going on about other issues, to stop bringing your religion into it, to stop thinking that mauling rosary beads will get you free, and just make a very cogent, simple, and direct explanation that the needlecraft ID, apartheid, is immoral and an affront to Western thinking. At the same time, say it's not an anti-vaxxer stance. Because I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I've got loads of vaccines in me, and I just don't want this one. I don't trust it. I think it's been rushed. I don't like the way it's being handled. It's obviously not working. I love the whole thing. Like it's the fact you have to get boosters means it works. It doesn't. That means it's failed. The gaslighting is off the scale, and and that's life. Okay. Now, I don't believe the stats because I know a lot of people I know are not needle crafted. So where is this 90% coming from? And if it is true 90%, they've reached this threshold. Clear, get rid of the digital ID, give us our lives back. As simple as that. It's as simple as that. Once you have 90%, that's realistically the maximum huge number you're going to get, and you're guaranteed herd immunity if you believe that your needle crafts work. You're guaranteed of it. And they're saying we have 90%, just 80 to 90% just about everywhere now. End all the restrictions. We've reached it. They've got their target, okay? And then allow life to go back to how it was. But they won't, because the jackboots just get to stomp harder and harder. Have you noticed that? The more people get needlecraft, the more the jackboots are kicked harder and harder. Does that suggest to you that your politicians, bureaucrats, globalists, corporate leaders have your best interest in mind? You don't get rewarded. You might be, you don't get rewarded. It means you can eat a meal indoors. But you better do this. They get worse. It gets worse and worse and worse. Because that's how psychopaths and bullies are. They don't back down. You want to expose a bully, if you want to expose someone who's evil, pretend they defeated you. A healthy person would go, well, that's that, and whatever, and walk away. But an evil person, an evil soul, will gloat, will relive it over and over again. You know, they will you know the way a serial killer like Ted Bundy used to finger the soil of where he killed the women because he was trying to relive the viciousness and the power that he had by fingering the soil of that. An evil person does that. They constantly go back and they want to relive that moment over and over again. They can't just move on. You know, they can't. So if you pretend you're defeated, just take this to the bank, young people. If you want to know someone who's true evil in your life, uh, pretend they've beaten you. If they're decent people that go, oh well, fuck that, I got what I wanted from that, and they'll move on. But if they're sadistic lunatics or poison or evil, they will want to relive that moment. And they will constantly bring it up, constantly, because they're desperate to read. They want the thrill of the evil that they were filled with, like Bundy fingering the soil of where he murdered the moment a woman died out, and he really wanted that power again. And that's what's happening with these bureaucrats and these politicians, is that they got such a taste for a cowering public in the early days of the pandemic that they're like Ted Bundy fingering the soil. They want to get back to March 2020 when everyone was cowering. Oh, protect us, government! You're all we have. Protect us from this. And they want March, April, May, June 2020 back. So they're like Ted Bundy fingering the soil, or they're like, a serial killer getting the underwear of a teenage girl they raped and murdered and smelling it. That's what they're like. They're dealing with these, and this is what's driving them. And you see that very clearly in Trudeau. Very fucking clearly. But you see it in all our ones in Ireland, the ones in the UK, they're craving that power. The bureaucrats, the civil servants, the media, the mainstream news, the quaking terror that they imposed upon the masses. They want that back, just like a serial killer, holding up a piece of an organ that they cut out. Like Jack the Ripper, he cut women's sexual organs out and kept them as prizes. And that's what they look at that. Oh, the good old days when March, April, May, June 2020, when we had them cowering in fear. Oh, we missed that. And that's why they're not taking away any of these things. Simple as that. They're psychopaths, they're sickos, they're evil and they're demented. And they derive sexual pleasure from their bullying. And what we need is people to point that out. Not say, oh, because he's a certain religion, or this is a certain, they don't believe in Jesus, or this. Have to point out that we're dealing with these monsters. And these monsters have got a taste for oppression last year, and they never want to lose that ever again. And it's not just your politicians on your TV, it's the guy who reads the evening news 6 o'clock, it's the ones who are in the mainstream media, it's the ones who love, reporting their neighbours and the potters they had in England. They're all craving that feeling, because for the first time in their lives, because they have no souls, they felt what it was close to be a human being for the first time in their existence. And they had meaning for their lives. When they reported their neighbours for having someone over for visiting, that was for the first time in their lives they had meaning. When they chastised someone who wasn't social distancing, for the first time in their lives they had meaning. When they boasted about throwing people out of their place because they weren't masked, they were power. They had meaning in their empty lives. Stop giving them meaning. Stop filling the voids where their soul should be with the pathological drive that they are missing so badly as this thing comes to an end. There's only one issue out there, and that's the dropping of the vax ideas and the free travel and free restrictions again, free travel again for everyone, just like it was. We can get it back like it was. And that's it. That's the end of it. That's all there is. And all we have to do is point out that there's a vested interest, a $1 trillion euro industry, pound industry, on keeping some bureaucrat somewhere who was sexually turned on by imposing restrictions, in that feeling that they had back in the day. That's what it's all about. And that's it. So once again, thanks everybody. Freedom is what it's all about. It's just freedom. You're free to do what you want, you know. My body, my choice. When the women who wanted abortion said that, I was like, you're absolutely correct. I totally agree with that. I'm totally on your side. But yeah, when I say my body, my choice, the same ones who did that, who I supported, are turned around and say, no, it's not your body, it's not your choice. Well, thank you very fucking much. Thank you very fucking much for that. It's really decent of you. Now, I'll leave you with one story I've heard recently. A woman told me that someone she knew, a friend of hers, had needlecraft after the baby was born. Basically because she was being bullied, right? Being nervous about the baby's milk, she extracted her own breast milk and gave the baby formula instead. After a month, the baby milk that was coming from her breasts was nearly a dark blue colour. It went from white with a tinge of blue to, after a month, a pure, rich blue coloured milk that her baby would have been ingesting. So, I leave you with that. The next time you hear someone say there's been no long-term side effects that have been reported, there has been very rare, side effects or bad reactions, I'll leave you with that, okay? I'll leave you with that, okay? Because in terms of the normal protocol concerning the development of these kinds of treatments, we haven't even gotten out of the starting gate. This wouldn't be even phase or module 1, and it's already in 90% of the population. You're a guinea pig. And the fact that you're having to get boosters proves you're a guinea pig. And like I said, your body, your choice. And why not, please, we ask you, just extend the same courtesy to the rest of us. And understand that if the Rona does wipe us out, we were okay with that. Like I said on the license plate in New Hampshire, live free or die.